Thomas Bertram Day was a young man here in Calgary, and in 1898, if I ever get any dates or anything wrong and you guys notice it, correct me. I'm fine with being corrected. So the Brits had been in South Africa where the Boers were. They had fought the first South African War, beat the Boers decisively in a very short time. So they were in South Africa, and the Boers were trying to get control of their own land. Didn't like the Brits in there. Were doing their best to try and limit the power of the British immigrants into South Africa. Unfortunately, diamonds and gold were discovered, and nothing makes people greedier than diamonds and gold, as we know. And the English started to pour in. And as the English poured in, the Boers denied them political rights in South Africa because they didn't want them to become a voting bloc and have a say in the South African government. So the English used that as an excuse to go to war against the Boers, once again expecting them to be a pushover as they were the first time. However, the Boers used new tactics and new technologies that were just coming into use, including the use of barbed wire to restrict movement and the use of trenches to shoot at groups. The English at this time were still doing their thin red line, so they were marching across in their little line, and the Boers were hiding in trenches and sniping them off. So the English were not doing very well at all. And as the English like to do, they called on her allies to come and help her, and one of those was Canada. Now the Canadian government was not too keen. This is, only a little while after we become a country. We don't have much of a military. The Canadian government, surprise, surprise, is not really willing to spend a lot of money on a military, so they weren't too keen. But they said that anyone who wanted to volunteer, they would equip them and send them over to South Africa, and then they became England's problem. So once they hit South African soil, the English controlled them, so they had a British commanding officer, they paid them, they trained them, they did all that. So that was the agreement they came to. And Thomas Day was one of the young men that enlisted to go over. Now Day is actually very, very sad. There is a website online that is letters of the soldiers from the different wars that they have, and they actually have Thomas Day's letter, that the last letter he wrote in Canada to his parents. And in that, he tells his parents that he probably won't see them for a while, but he feels he'll be okay. But if anything happens to them, they shouldn't worry about it, because he believed he was in God's hands. And he died 3 months later at Heart River, which is one of the worst battles for Canadians of the Second South African War. So he's not buried here. He's in South Africa. We did not bring the bodies back. This is a memorial to Thomas, not his graves. Now, the Second South African War was Canada's first major conflict, and we responded to it in a haphazard way. But one of the things that it did do is it proved the value of the Northwest Mounted Police, because many, many members of the Northwest Mounted Police enlisted to go over. A significant portion of the Northwest Mounted Police were already Brits, so they have that sense of duty in that. Sir Sam Steele, our famous Sir Sam Steele of the Klondike, became the commanding officer of the Lord Strathcona's Horse, which Lord Strathcona created to send over. For those of you who don't recall Lord Strathcona's horse, Lord Strathcona, you may not know his horse either, but Lord Strathcona is the man that hit in the last spike. So he's the guy in the top hat in the picture, and everybody knows that picture. How many people know that the photographer of that picture is actually buried here in Union Cemetery? I did not know that. So Lord Strathcona raised the unit. He put Sir Sam Steele in charge of it, and many, many members of the Northwest Mounted Police joined that, and the number 3 Canadian Mounted Rifles. So they made a significant portion. When they came back in 1904, they were granted their Royal. And when a unit is granted their Royal, it is for service to the Crown. The Royal can only be granted by the seated monarch at the time. So Queen Elizabeth I in Canada, the 2nd in England. Queen Elizabeth I is the only one who can give a Canadian unit their Royal. And you hold on to that oil. It's like gold. So the Mounties got it in 1904 to service to the crown of that. The Boer War didn't really impact Canada. You know, we went over there, we were brave and valiant. The Canadians, the Australians, and New Zealanders turned the tide of the war. Big surprise there. Setting the guidelines for the next war. We were mobile. Canadians, Australians, and New Zealanders were cowboys. They were fast on the horse. They knew how to use a rifle. They really helped to round up the Boers and contain the Boers much more than the English. So we definitely proved our worth. We thought it was, you know, hey, we were patriotic and loyal. Everybody came home and we thought that was the end of it. All right. So does anyone know the one thing the English invented in the Boer War that would come to haunt us in the Second World War?
Trench war.
That's First World War too. Concentration camps. The English used concentration camps in the Boer War. First time they were used, concentration camps to round up the Boer families to remove the Boers' logistics. They had no more support. And the camps were so bad, placed so badly and so badly supplied that some of them had to a 98% death rate. Concentration camps were a legacy of the Boer War. Okay, we are going to head just